Welcome to The Business Strategist, the show for CEOs and founders ready to scale fast, lead smarter, and build a business that doesn't rely on them. I'm Adam Strong, award-winning strategist, former elite athlete, international speaker, and 3 times best-selling author. After 3 decades in business, I know exactly what it takes to grow, scale, and exit with impact. Each week, I dive into real conversations with industry experts, bold entrepreneurs, and clients navigating the uphill struggles of business, giving you the tools and the strategies to create more profit, more freedom, and more impact. Let's get into it.
Meta AI is the personal AI that's tailored to you, now with its very own app. It's built to get to know you, offering helpful answers and inspiration. Looking for something to add to your bucket list? Meta AI goes beyond traveling the world. It remembers you're a basketball fanatic and suggests you attend one of the playoff games. Just start typing or speaking to get the answers you need, wherever and whenever, because Meta AI is your personal AI. Download the Meta AI app, now available on the Apple App Store and Google Play.
Most founders think scaling is all about going faster and doing more. And today's show is a really interesting show. So we've got a really good friend of mine, and her name is Leila Lahbabi. Now, Leila is the former strategy officer for Oliver Wyman, and she's now a CEO coach, and she's the author of a book called $1 Billion Purpose. Now, that to me is the reason why she's here on the show, because it is a particular topic that not only interests me, but is one of the reasons why I do what I do. We're going to be talking about some of the misconceptions around what scaling is. And I think this is really important for you guys, for you founders and CEOs, by the way, that are looking to scale, whether it be for the first time or you've done it over and over again and failed. I think there's going to be some great golden nuggets from this episode. So just make sure you got your notebook and pen handy. What I always say to people when they're listening to a podcast episode like this one is to go back and re-listen to it, because I can guarantee you will pick up golden nuggets that you didn't pick up the first time round. So what we're going to be speaking about, me and Leila, is she's going to share us with her 5-step methodology and her new book, but she's also going to be talking a lot about meditation and leadership principles. And I think this is important because this is definitely an area that I don't cover. So without further ado, Leila, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me here.
Appreciate you being here. I mean, it's interesting because, I mean, we were just saying this offline. I suppose fish in the same pond in a way, but the pond is very big. What I love about you is the fact that you've come from corporate. You've got a perspective of the corporate life, but also you've dipped your toe and kind of moved into the entrepreneurial life, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I did. I came from corporate. So the question is yes or no. Yes, I come from corporate and I moved to entrepreneurship first as a side hustle. I was not like meant to be an entrepreneur anyway. So I was like, just for me. The first move was to work on myself, and I went into personal development, and then I liked it and it transformed me. And then from that, I built a business, and that was a side hustle. I wasn't even thinking it was a business. And this was the Mindful Academy. It was 7 years ago. And then I was like, okay, so this is interesting. You know, I'm helping myself and then I'm helping people on their personal development. But then, you know, all the stress, or 80% of the stress, comes from the way we work on the corporate job that I've seen. Like, I've worked with so many CEOs. I was like, oh my God, you're so successful on the outside. But what happens actually is, you know, nobody sees that. Nobody sees how you feel. Nobody sees like the days that you're having and so on. So I moved from that to saying, okay, so how we can more than transform people on their personal level, but transform the way we work and transform the way we scale. As I see like so many people thinking about building a business, not even starting to think about like scaling, and they're afraid that when they will scale, they will have a lot of pressure, a lot of stuff, right? So they don't even start sometimes just because of that. Or they start not knowing about that, and then they say, oh my God, I was not expecting this.
Yeah, totally. I can totally relate to that. When you, did you, just on a personal level, because I never worked in corporate, right? So I've been an entrepreneur from a very young age. Did you struggle transitioning full time from a whole kind of like corporate life to, oh, shit, I've now got to go out and do this myself? Like, what was the driving force there? And was there a lot of fear that was holding you back? Did you do it sooner? What was the timescales?
Oh my God, so much fear. So much fear, because when you come from corporate world, you're kind of used to getting to the letter one after the other. And failure is not something which is really accepted. So if you fail at your job or you fail at something, then, it's like a bit in school. In entrepreneurship, failure is a way to move forward. But when you're in corporate world, failure is not. It starts to be in some companies that understand and incorporate innovation. It starts to be part of building a business. But then, like in standard businesses that I worked for, failure was very avoided. And also when you have, when you start at the beginning and you say like when you start young, then, even if you fail, you're at your parents' house or whatever, or you don't have a really high standard, right? Like you say, even if I fail, I will start again and I start again and start again. And then when you have a first part of your life that is a corporate job, so one of the things is like you start having life, you start having a lifestyle, and you start maybe also having kids that are used to a certain lifestyle. Okay. So when you've built everything and then you also have, a title, right? You start having a title, you start being attached to the title that you've built. And then you look into yourself and it's like, I'm going to start everything from scratch. I'm starting so I'm not a strategy consultant at Oliver Wyman anymore. Like nobody knows me. I'm just Leila now.
Yeah.
And I need to build something being just Leila. So I need to be something that drives value for people to buy it, because they don't really know who I am. It's not that they don't care. Maybe they also don't care, but I mean, they need to have a value, and it's like the value driven, the problem solving driven. That is not, you don't have the authority or the credibility from the start. As you may have with a big company. When you work for the big company, people trust you because you belong to this big company and then they've been working with her and so on. But when you start, there is so much fear, so much fear I cannot even describe, and so much overthinking. Because when you work in corporates, you want to make sure that, so you have only one boss, more or less, right?
Yes.
So if the boss says that, so you work on your document, you work on your stuff, and you are your client, you always overthink the things. And entrepreneurship is completely different. It's like lots of action, very few overthinking. Like you have an idea, you implement it now because you will learn from what you do. It's completely different mindset. So you need to work on your mindset. You need to work on your fear. You need to work on all those internal blockers, even if you may have the expertise that you have built through the years. You may have internal blockers that would tell you, not sure entrepreneurship is for you. And you also have so many messages out there saying, oh, entrepreneurship is not for everyone. A lot of people should stay at their job. No.
Agreed.
Yeah, not lie.
Totally get that. I mean, you see, daily on LinkedIn of, people's perception of what entrepreneurship is and stuff like that. But I can totally relate to that. And, and the struggle is real. So, but I mean, that was quite a significant amount of years for you ago. And now you're here, which is great. Interesting. We're on the subject of purpose-driven companies, organizations, leadership, that kind of stuff. Now, one of the things that kind of sprung to my mind, especially when it comes to, and these are conversations I've had over the years with hundreds of founders, and maybe you've had the same conversations as well. I guess the multi-million-dollar question is why should founders care if they're purpose-driven or not? Like, what difference does it actually make to scaling a business?
It's a very beautiful question. And actually what I found is to start a business, for me, all founders are purpose driven.
Yeah, I guess in a way they are.
At the beginning, right? Yeah. Because, to have the courage to go do something or change something and take so much risks, it means there is something behind that you care deeply about, right? And then what happens, and for me, that was a bit my story, right? Probably not everyone, I don't know, but people that I've met also have this. Is like when I started, I cared about stress reduction. I cared about being able to grow myself. I cared about this. This was my purpose, right? So I built a business that is around that because people came to me for that. And then even if my purpose evolved, right, to say, okay, so I evolved my mission, the purpose was always the same, to be able to have both fulfillment and to have an impact, right? Mm-hmm. Without burning out yourself. It's my mission evolved because I know that I have more skills that I can incorporate into my mission. Mm-hmm. Right? And one of the things that sometimes happen is like you start being purpose driven and then you may, for example, hire a lot of people or whatever, and then you have overhead, right? And then at some point you're like, I'm not the only one. I have the responsibility not only for myself, but for a lot of people. And there is where stress come into place, where you say, oh my God, I don't know what to do now. Like, I don't know how to have sustainable incomes, how to have this. So then you are seeking advice from outside. It's not coming anymore from what you think, what you've built, your purpose, whatever. And you're seeking advice from outside. People tell you, this is how you should sell. This is how you should talk. This is how, and then you're so in a stress mode, autopilot. They're like, okay, give me this. Okay, let me try this. Let me try that. And sometimes you try things that are completely out of alignment. And this is where you start, what I say, losing your soul. Like losing, like, why did I start this at the first place? Because you have more problems, you have more activities that are draining you than activities that you really care about. And you move from being the one that started doing things, that started solving your client problem, to imagine other people that are doing that. And probably the management part is not what the founders at the beginning love doing, because it's so human. It's like, handling the conflicts. Conflicts cost so much on company's level. And then they start evolving that. And so the big question that I ask myself at some point is like, how to scale without losing your soul, without losing this purpose, without losing this spark.
Yep. I think you made a really valid point. I never heard it the way you've kind of framed it. And you kind of mentioned the way of losing your soul. Because in a way it is, isn't it? It's, you kind of lose that inner engine of you. You know what I mean? So, and I totally get that. What's one of the things that I feel that a lot of founders believe that scaling is all about doing more marketing, focusing on growth, focusing on lead generation, right? And, to me, that's not scaling, right? What do you think is, from your perspective, what do you think is kind of misguided about scaling from your perspective? What else would you add to the layer of what scaling is and what scaling isn't?
I will add it in one phrase, that money is in the backend. And people focus so much on the front end, and the front end is very costly.
Yeah.
If you focus all your business and the way you build stuff on building your front end, meaning your visibility, meaning your lead generation, meaning your sales, if you focus everything there, people will come into your business. And since you didn't build the backend being a great product or a great service and a great customer service, and taking people from where they come and having a important lifetime value, right? So that people come in, you sell them something, and then you can sell them something else, and then you can sell them something else, right? To the same customer. You don't work on that. You spend your time chasing new clients and exhausting yourself because you don't have leverage. Like, you don't even have time to breathe and to say, this month, even if I don't have another client coming in, then my business will still run. So you totally break yourself. And I understand, like, founders who are doing this. I completely understand that, because you think, sales, I need to sell. Of course you need to sell to build a business. Of course you need to sell. Everyone needs to sell to build a business. But then what they don't see, some of them don't see, is like, it's not the ability to sell that is the problem. It's the ability to retain that could be the problem.
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine, and actually was with me in Oliver Wyman. In all his lifetime, and he's 60 years old, he had 5 clients, 5 big clients, each of them paying him $1 to $2 million a year. And he was able to make good money out of it all his career. I'm not saying this is not working for all business models. Of course, there are business models, there are more mass, there are more, but then each person and each founder, if he or she wants to breed within the business, needs to think a bit more about the back end. And this is a subject that is not sexy, not very marketed, not why? Because you don't have the direct ROI. So a lot of people that will sell you that they can help you with your business will sell you, I will help you with sales. I will help you with marketing. Why? Because when you sell, for example, 100K worth of service or 1 million worth of service, I say, oh, the ROI is 100 or 1 million. Not really. Not really, because if you're not able to keep it, if your business breaks, if then your client is disappointed, what is the cost that you put on your brand? What is the price that you put on your brand? What is the price that you put on your health? What is the price that you put on your business being able to stay year over year?
Imagine this. The best pasta sauce you have ever tasted sits abandoned on a plate. Wasted sauce. That is a tragedy. If only you had used Barilla al Bronzo pasta. Its bronze-cut texture holds your sauce and scoops up every last drop. The Italians call that scarpetta. Capture sauce the Italian way. Barilla al Bronzo. Click or tap the banner to find out more.
Yeah, I also feel like there is, and I talk a lot about this actually, Leila, around the whole kind of psychological shifts that need to happen as well. Because I feel like, you know, if you're a founder that's firefighting all the time and, you know, and kind of chasing the rabbits, as I like to call it, right? And the thing is, if you go around chasing rabbits is just not sustainable, right? It's, you know, it requires a lot of energy. Yeah, requires a lot of your attention. But I feel like, you know, there's a lot of, and I just say this from personal perspective because, you know, I mean, I've scaled myself, I've scaled with many clients, failed, but learned from that episode. And then you kind of look back at that and you think, well, actually, my head wasn't in the right space. Like I just, but also there is an element of I need to know how to do it versus am I ready? So it's kind of having the openness, right, from a mindset perspective of actually saying, well, okay, well, you know, it didn't work this way, but maybe if we could do it this way, then it would be better type thing. So it's about, I'm a big fan of the word perspective. So yeah, anyway, that's just my 2 cents in there. Very good. Love that.
I love this rabbit image. It's so powerful because, you know, and exactly like as a mom of 2 little girls, I'm like, I cannot be running. Like if one day I want to spend my day with my kids, if they're sick, if whatever, like I cannot be running. Just not possible. I need to figure out another way.
Yep. It's choice. I believe I'm a big believer of choice. And for some of you that follow me on LinkedIn, by the way, you know, I leave a few posts around the whole kind of family and parenting, which we'll talk about later on, and how it's impacted me. Because again, it's a false misperception and a psychological, you know, element that needs to happen there. But we'll talk about that. I think it's very good. When you work with clients at Oliver Wyman, and even with some of the clients that you work with today, what do you notice about the founders that scaled and the founders that I suppose failed in a way? Is it that they failed because of strategy, or is it kind of fear? Isn't it identity? Is it a mixture of everything? Like, have you found any patterns or any similarities between people that have failed and the people that have succeeded?
I love this question. And I will answer it in different stages.
Very good.
Because I didn't start my career in strategy consulting. I actually started in operational consulting, meaning I was a data scientist. And then I was like building models and all this kind of thing, very operational, but very handy and
fascinating.
So on. And then I was like, oh my God, like, why aren't we able to maintain those projects over time? Some projects were really amazing and the models really crazy. And it's just like the CEO decided that it's not priority for this year.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened is like, the operational guys, they had great ideas, but they just weren't able to pitch it. They didn't pitch it. They didn't think that they could pitch it and then someone would say yes. They didn't even step in to ask and to request, right? It's like, okay, so he's the one who's making the decision, then we will follow that. And then I was thinking to myself, let's go to those CEOs and see how they think. And this is what led me to strategy consulting. And this is where I understand, like, a lot of CEOs and also founders, they're open to learn about what we can build within the company. They don't want to be the only one who's holding the pen and thinking about solutions. But unconsciously, some of them, they lead in a way that make their team say, let him lead, let her lead. Let me not step into this conversation. It's not conscious. And they say like, I don't know why my team is not stepping in. So one of the common criteria that I see at CEOs and founders is like this ability to build the trust with their team, to come up with ideas.
Yep, love that.
It's so crucial because the operational teams are the ones who are seeing the problems every day. So if you want to scale, you should not be the one who's like doing everything. But then how would you take a decision when you're disconnected from the ground? You will take it how? You will take it probably by using strategy. But what is your strategy based on? If it's not based on your ground, then you're not taking the specificities of your own business, of your own context. And this is what caused some of companies to fail, because they were like taking decisions in boardrooms without taking into consideration what was happening. This is what happened to Kodak. This was happened to so many companies who fails like, yeah, you're saying this, but you will never fail. BlackBerry, no, we never fail. So it's the thing, like, I know I'm the founder, I know what I need to do, and then nobody else knows, is what causes failure. And failure, when you said the word failure, like, failure is part of the game, right? It's part of being an entrepreneur. What causes it is to not acknowledge failure. Is to not say, oh no, we tried this and it didn't work, and then learn from it. It's like to stay stubborn, to say, oh no, it's not my problem, it's the market problem, it's this team problem, it's this one. So there is
someone that doesn't take any responsibility.
And see what we can learn from failure, what we can learn from others. At the end is leadership. I found it to be a lot of leadership causes.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. I it's interesting, us Europeans, and I say this with context because we have a lot of people in North America listen to the podcast. But if we kind of have two conversations, one with Europeans and one with our fellow Americans and Canadians, is they'll have a completely different perspective of what failure is. Like, from the years that I probably failed more than I've succeeded. But I could say to you now that failure to me is not failure. It's kind of, I've just found a method or a way that it simply doesn't work. And so if you refrain it, well, should we say refrain it into a different point of, this is a learning moment for me, then it's not really classed as a failure. So I don't know. That's just kind of like, again, my 2 cents and what I've learned from over the years. So, but yeah, I think you made some very valid points there. Thanks. We appreciate that. Now, interestingly enough, you practice mindfulness and meditation a lot, right?
I do.
So let me ask you a question. What's from your perspective, what's the one shift in your leadership that you know came from inner work and working with clients as well? Like, what are some of the big shifts that you've seen with some of the clients that you've worked with, just those two practices?
Listening skills. You know, when someone talks and then you just breathe, you don't really think about what you're going to say, but just breathe and be present and listen. It shifts so many things. Sometimes people process their own thoughts by themselves without you having to interfere into that. And when I started mindfulness, and then I came back, like I was like doing mindfulness in Saturday and Sunday and coming back doing strategy the classical way during the week, I noticed that people were more talking and thinking about what they're going to say than listening. And everyone is busy. And because they're busy, they think that if they speak fast and they say what they have to say, then the meeting will last shorter. Ironically, the meeting lasts longer because people don't listen, so they don't understand each other. So each person has to repeat herself 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And then this Russian, like, you think you're winning time when actually you're losing time and energy because you're feeling drained by not having people understand you. Like, oh my God, I said it twice and I said it a third time and you didn't understand it yet. Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen that many times, definitely. Yes, it's interesting. You know, one of the things, especially in kind of our realm, if you like, I mean, meditation in entrepreneurship, in particular, meditation is seen as a bit of a soft option. You know, it's kind of like you can't take this seriously, the whole kind of mindfulness and stuff like that. What do you think? Why do you think so many founders avoid meditation, even though, you know, we know listening to gurus out there and experts like the Jack Canfields, like the Robert Maxwell's out there and stuff like that, they practice this meditation. But I mean, from your perspective, why do you think people avoid it? What's the main reason for that?
I've asked myself this question, and to be honest, the way I was attracted to mindfulness was through science, right? Because I'm quite a rational person,
yeah.
say, and I was like, oh my God, all the things, I don't want to go into a woohoo kind of movement or whatever. And this guru, even this, when I hear guru, the word guru, I'm like, no, I don't really like that.
Yes.
And it's what reassures me is like the science and then the studies that had been done regarding stress reduction, regarding the ability to focus, regarding the ability to have more clarity, right? This is how I went to mindfulness. And then it's the experience of it. And the thing is, it's with business or with ourselves, it's more difficult to set the soft. Actually, it's the hardest. It's the hardest because you're working on yourself, because you're working on your doubts, because you're questioning it. So it's deep work. It's not superficial work. You don't just have to fix your, price or to fix your landing page or to fix this. Doesn't involve any emotional attachments, right? So it's just on your mind. But everything that causes emotional attachment, oh my God, this is related to my identity. Will I be changing? Will I be becoming a monk? Everything is related to our identity. Then yes, because one of the things that my client told me once is like, I'm afraid of what I'm going to find.
That's interesting.
Because mindfulness is like putting the light on your room. Like your room being your life, right?
Yeah.
So imagine yourself, you put on lights on a room. and it's a complete mess, then you cannot ignore it anymore. So you have to face it.
Yeah.
Right? So sometimes some founders may think that they cannot face it once they find it. The thing is, if you don't see something, or if you see it, it still exists. The only difference is like when you see it, then you can work with it and you can solve it. When you don't see it, it's an unconscious bias. It's happening to you without you being aware of it. And then you go crazy about why things are not working, why I'm not seeing what I'm not seeing.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, you don't want to see it. Right?
Yeah.
What we forget is like, even if we don't see it, it still exists and it still influences you, and it still influences and impacts your results as a human being and the results of your business.
Yeah, it's interesting when you talked about unconscious bias. It kind of gave me this deja vu of a good friend of mine. We did a podcast with Sylvie D'Agusto, actually, and she's French Canadian, and so we were talking about unconscious biases. So when you said that, and I was like, this reminds me of a conversation we had not too long ago. But I totally relate to it and totally hear you. So yeah, that is a good reminder, especially to our listeners and stuff. Now, interestingly enough, as we're on the kind of like ideology of, I suppose, the inner voice, if you want to call it that, but for those founders that are feeling trapped in their business, right, and they want to grow, but they feel like every time they make a step, it's really heavy. It's a bit like going through quicksand in a nutshell. What's the first, what I call inner question that they need to ask themselves, to kind of get them from, say, this is me here and I want to get to here? What's the first question, inner question, that we need to ask ourselves?
You know what makes the question difficult is like the first. Because you can ask yourself so many questions, but the first question to ask yourself, I would say it's more an awareness questions. Yeah. What I'm not seeing. And this one could be through all the kind of 360 leadership kind of assessment and so on. I found those to be quite effective, especially to go out of your own head. So each time they feel stuck is to get out of your head and listen to what people are saying around you. So the first question is like, what are the different stakeholders thinking and saying? Stakeholders, by stakeholders, I mean your team, your client, your suppliers, your investors, if you have ones, and the society, what it is thinking and saying about your own business. And then from that, to get there, it means to be able to answer what they demand, what your market demands. So it's getting out of your head and getting more into the head of your clients. Yeah, would be the first.
I think that's a really good point, which is all around asking clients, asking stakeholders, asking their perspective, their opinions, right, about your value, what springs to mind. You made a second good point I want to just bring up as well that you mentioned, and I harp on about this a lot, which is self-awareness. How can one know how to improve something if they're unaware of what to improve? Anything you want to add to that?
I think it's a good start. Let's start there, because when you add, people go into the thing that you add.
Yeah, totally.
And this is again the avoidance, right? We have so many things to do, to feel, so that we pick the easiest one. I know the question that I asked is not the easiest, but it could be one of the most powerful. So let's stay with this one.
One of the things that we'd like to do on the show is I like to kind of do some coaching. That's not me coaching you. That's you coaching me. And one of the things that sprang to my mind, because, I mean, listen, you're very calm in your approach. You're very spiritual, but also there's an analytical side of your personality as well, which is really interesting. And what I'd love to do is I'd love to explore the whole kind of meditation mindfulness route, because it's not something that I have personally done, but hey, if many people have been saying it needs to be done, then it needs to be done. So what could you do for me in terms of helping me? I've got zero expectations. I have zero clues, and therefore I've got nothing to compare it by. If people are new to this, including me, by the way, I'm a complete guinea pig. How would you get me started?
Yeah. The first thing that I would get you started with is what we call the 3 dimensions, so what do you think of the situation that you are in? How do you feel about it emotionally?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you feel about it in your body? You said, let's do it, Can we do something? Yeah, of course. So what is the problem or the situation that you want to work on? So what is it that you want to work on?
Okay, yeah, good question. Well, I think, let me give you some context. I suppose founder and CEO, similar to some of our listeners, I feel like one of the challenges that I have is there's so much noise happening out there, right? It's kind of like, what do we do? Do we focus on AI type of thing, or, like systemizing things, or do I focus on personal growth? Like I feel like I'm being pulled and I'm being stretched, and there's external forces that are pulling me, and it's kind of like it's pulling me to move to the right, it's moving me to the left. And what generally happens to me, Leila, is that I get overwhelmed. And sometimes what happens is I get what I call analysis by paralysis by analysis type of thing. You've heard that mindset. And rather kind of me analyzing it, I am just kind of paralyzed in the middle thinking, this isn't working. I've got to figure out, I suppose, based on what I want to achieve, I guess, in a way, like, is it aligning to my purpose in a way? So I think one of my challenges really is being overwhelmed as a founder and knowing which path to take. And I'm all about taking action. I'm all about, for me, I wouldn't say I have fear. I mean, I guess you're going to challenge me on that, of course. But sometimes I do feel very overwhelmed, in all fairness. So I'm just kind of trying to find ways to gather my thoughts and try to be a little bit more efficient, but also, you being a parent, I'm a parent as well, being a good dad as well. I think that's important to me.
Oh, I love that. And one of the things that we do is you said something around things pulling you out of you, like decision, this. And one of the things is like all strategies work. All strategies work if you maintain them enough, sustain them enough at the time. If you do them enough times so that you can upskill and then continue doing them.
Yep.
And one of the things that we think about is more time. My time, when I spend my time with my kids, my time on this. And I would just like to change a little bit this and move from time to energy.
Love that.
Right? So the question that I would ask you is like, what energizes you as actions that will move your business forward is what to focus on. And as you say, what both energizes me and enables me to move forward. That's it.
And when we're talking about what energizes me, are we looking at the internal as well as the external?
It's more so when you say energize me, you're moving from your head, because I think I can do AI, I can do this, I can do that, to what I feel.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right? So when you connect to what you feel, you connect to your own strength. And when you do something, you're not attached to the results. Because in all situations, you are winning. because you would have done something that energizes you. So my answer is yes, internally. It's not conditioned to the success. It's not if I do this and then I succeed, then I will feel good. No, it's I feel good by doing this. This is something that I love. This is something that I want to build. This is the way I want to build. And the thing is, you would attract people because you will do it effortlessly and people will feel it. And you will be great at it. So even if all strategies work, the strategy that works best for you is the one where you feel your energy. So one thing that mindfulness can help you with on a coaching session is to track on your day and on your week the activities that you do, and then to say, what is my level of energy by doing this? From 1 to 10. And
Love
then
that.
when you look at your whole week or at your whole month, you will start saying, okay, so this I love. This, is it necessary? If it's necessary and I don't like it, or it isn't energizing, can I delegate it? So first, can I eliminate it? And second, can I delegate it? And then, like, what is your outcome coming from? And this is where you said, like, I have the mindfulness part and I have the strategy part. It's like when you look from a strategy perspective and you mix that with your energy, you analyze your energy, and we say, okay, so what drives the most results? What action drove the most results? And then you double down on that. And you will find, all my clients find that the actions that drive the best results are the ones that energizes them.
I know, it sounds so simple, doesn't it?
I mean, it may sound simple, but it's the practice of it that is transformative, right?
Yeah.
The concept is simple, but not everyone is going to do it, right? So you have on your listeners, the ones who are going to say, sounds like a good idea, and the ones that are really going to do it. And the one that will benefit from it is the one who will move from this is an idea to this is an application to this is a feeling. And when you tap into this power, you train. So what is mindfulness? It's a training. You train your mind. You train your mind to see other thoughts than the one that are always turning around, and to listen to the little voice. You train your mind to listen to your feeling, and you train your mind to listen to the body sensations. That's it. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So this is indicators, and based on data, you take decisions. And this data is not only based on here, but it's based on your energy, on the way you feel, on everything. This is what changes. Is like you don't only have as data what you think, but as data what you think, what you feel, and what your body is able to handle.
Beautiful. And what would I suppose if you were if there were 3 practices that you'd get me to go away with, what 3 practices would you kind of recommend me to kind of, what you just explained, what I need to go do? What would be those 3 practices?
Yeah, there is one practice that I love that I call the stop, and it's not my practice, it's
okay.
a common practice.
No worries. Yeah.
And the stop is like, S is, so when you see a situation that triggers you, right? And you just want to react. Then the stop, S is to stop. T is to take the time, always to observe what's going on, not outside, but also inside you. What is triggering? Like, what was the trigger?
Yeah.
Right? And then when you get that, you can pursue. So it's learning to go with the accelerator and the stop. Accelerator and a stop. So if you want to change your route, if you want to go from a place to a destination, you just don't just pull the accelerator, right? Sometimes you need to stop to turn right, to turn left. So this is one of the practice. The second one is really more natural. Take full breath between your words because sometimes we're afraid of silence. So I would say to practice silence with yourself, but also within conversations.
Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere, nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. Goldbelly ships Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garden's famous cakes. So, if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT. That's goldbelly.com, promo code GIFT.
That's interesting. I mean, every morning I do go for a walk in nature, but by the way, and it's complete silence. Like, I don't speak to anyone on my walk. I don't even come into any interaction. So I think I do pretty well in the morning, and it can be like that, right? You don't have to be in a room in silence, do you?
So this is linked to the third one, which is journaling. So you said, for example, you go in the morning and then you walk in the silence and then you observe the nature and get inspired by the nature. But then what do you do with that? Then you move into your day and then you do in your stuff, right? But you didn't took time to integrate what you just learned from nature.
I didn't. I would say that there's definitely a weakness of mine, journaling.
Yeah, and this is something with founders to listen to their inner voice. When you journal, you start listening to your inner voice. And when you start listening to your inner voice, you have less pull. You said, I feel pulled. Of course you will feel pulled because you don't listen what's going on here. Right? And everything is here to pull you, is here to hook you. Like you said, hooks. You need to write hooks. You need to hook people. Everything is here to pull your attention. So you need to build strengths and you be strong enough to go back to yourself. And this strength is what's going to build your business, because your business will have ups and downs. And if each time you have downs, then you feel pulled to someone then you will react instead of responding. You may do things that could seem to be good on the short term that could be harmful for the long term because you've been pulled to something and you've not been strengthened and then anchored in your own strength and your own resilience and ability to go through difficult times. And you will be tested. And we are all tested at different stages of our lives to learn how to grow. So back.
Very good. I think that there's some really good points there. And for you, by the way, for you guys that are listening in, you may feel like there's a a resonance between, I suppose, my challenge, if you want to call it that, and maybe what you're feeling right now. Because again, I think Leila has pointed out 3 really interesting points there. And by the way, I'm not perfect. And I don't think anyone here is listening in. No one's perfect, right? And so I'm always a big believer, though, of improving ourselves. Like we are literally architects of design, of always improving. And I'm a big believer of that. Now, I'm conscious of time, but I've got a couple more questions before we wrap up. And I suppose the first thing that I wanted to ask you, which is, you got your book, which is out now. I'm a billion dollar purpose. And talk to me a little bit about the premise of the book, and also you've got a framework or a methodology around that. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So the story of the book is what I said at the beginning of the episode, is like, it was more for me at the beginning. How can I scale my business? I had my first business, which was Mindful Academy. And then, so I need, and that was the face of the brand, right? People come to me, to Leila, not to Mindful Academy. I was like, how can I scale this business without burning out myself, knowing that this business is about like reducing stress and burnout. So like, I need to figure out a way for myself to be able to serve more people, right? And then I learned from the CEOs that succeed that if you want to succeed, it's better to have high-performing teams, especially on the long run, and to build high-performing teams. And people who are like, it's for conscious, what I call conscious leaders, right? The ones who are saying, I don't think that my way of scaling is more sales, because my clients, if I don't have the right backend, are not going to be satisfied. And when they hear that the only way of scaling is to sell more, and they say, I don't resonate, I wanted to offer something else and to say, if you don't resonate, it's okay. It's ethical. What you're doing is ethical, because you're not wanting to bring more people into something that's not going to serve them correctly. So build what you want to serve, right? Build this high performing team. Use what you have so the methodology is in 5 steps, and the framework is what I call the clap methodology. And clap, it's a Moroccan proverb. It's one hand doesn't clap. So you cannot clap with one hand. So you need 2 hands to clap. So in order to be able to build something, you can move your hand and then it just be able to move your hand, right? Sure. So the clap C is for the collective. You need the collective intelligence of people around you. Is having the leadership to support that, because I've seen founders bring in people that are more skilled than them on some specific areas and then feeling threatened, because sometimes it happens that the investors may replace the CEO, So this leadership positioning that supports the collective intelligence, right? A is the autonomy, having autonomous team. If you have the right leadership, the collective intelligence will not be able to build without the autonomy of your team. So if you recruit people to tell them what to do, you will always have people knocking at your door to ask you what to do. So the autonomy is how you build your autonomous team so that you can have the collective intelligence to build things without you getting involved. And this is where it's less burnout, because you're not involved in all the decisions of your business. And B, it's people. P is for people, is building with people within your business, building for people who are your clients, right? It's connection to people, because who's going to buy your service at the end? We talk a lot about AI, automation, and so on. Who's going to buy something? It's people. AI will not buy anything from you, right? And who understand best? People. It's people.
Yep.
So when you have this problem solving thing and the emotional connection, then you have a business. Then of course you can automate so many things, and then you can optimize, so on. But the core of the value creation is on people. So this is the clap methodology. And the steps are 5. First is when your mission driven is built on your vision and your mission. Is scaling your mission. As I said at the beginning of the podcast, my first mission was just to help people reduce their stress. Then I was helping companies scale. But it's all in the same foundations. The same foundation, but it's a mission that I had to think about and to scale. And if you look, for example, very advanced, mission-driven businesses, Patagonia, at the beginning, they were just selling goods, right? They didn't have this activism type of mission. And why I focus on mission is the mission who attracts the right people. People who come for the money will leave for the money.
True.
And I say, retention is your key thing, because it's so expensive to recruit people. It's so expensive to train people. And it takes up to 6 months to, train someone to come into your business and understand it. And if you lose someone, it costs you 2 years of their annual salary. So it's really expensive. If you have mission which is really attracting the right ones and retaining the right ones because they know that they're building something with you, then you have a competitive advantage, a huge competitive advantage, because while your competitors are chasing more and more people to work for them and to train them, yours are big assets that grow over time. Yeah. Because you know better your client, because you know better your service, because you know. And then you're not, stressed out when this person is leaving and I need to replace it. The third step is the leadership. And scaling yourself, scaling the CEO, scaling yourself to scale your business. If your business outgrown you, it's going to break or you're going to be replaced. Absolutely. And we have seen it so many times. So it's being able to grow as your business grows, because otherwise you may just shrink your business back because you didn't have a certain growth, or you may just leave it because it's too big for you. So it's important as you learn to grow your business, to grow yourself at the same time, your ability to hold problems. When you have more revenues, have a bigger company, have bigger revenues, have bigger operations, and you have bigger problems.
So it's a bit like, I suppose it's a bit like upgrading your computer software, but you're upgrading yourself, right?
Absolutely. And then the fourth one is upscaling your team's software, you and your team software. And the fifth and last one is the adaptability to be able to shift with the markets. That is, the adaptability goes with collective intelligence, being able to iterate on stuff, learning to iterate on stuff, and learning to exit. Those are the steps.
Love that. I suppose my last question, which is us being parents, of course. And I mean, there's a lot of founders here and a lot of CEOs that are listening in from all over the world. We're all at different life stages. Some of us have young kids. Some of us have kids that have flown the nest, right? We're all at different stages of life. But specifically, how has parenthood helped you in shifting from a kind of a hustle culture to more, I want to be kind of more purpose-driven and aligned? How has parenthood helped you along the way?
Wow, I love this question. I love this question because most of the time we frame it into how you're able to do it while having it, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time we're framing the question as, it's something that's supposed to drain you, or something that's supposed to be an obstacle.
Yes, agreed.
And the way you frame it is so beautiful because you framed it as an asset. Because it is an asset. And I agree with you that it is an asset. And it forces you to be creative, right? And you value other things than just processes. They teach you, kids teach you to be curious. Kids teach you to be present. And I had a friend of mine when I remember I was pregnant of my first kid. She told me, Leila, when you will have a kid, then you'll be so much more efficient. And I was like, why are you saying that? I cannot see how we'll be more efficient by having a kid. She said, because you know that someone is waiting for you at 5 p.m. So your mind won't be wandering. Each time your mind will wander, you keep it back. Let's focus. Let's do the things that we have to do. You will have less time for fluff. You will have less time for hesitation. You will have less time for losing endless meetings. You will be more relentless with your time, with your energy, more conscious about also what you're building. Because you said conscious because, when you have kids, you think about what are we leaving for our kids as a word, right? You don't just think about yourself anymore. And you're like, more conscious business will be better for the world. This is what I said to myself. So let's have those conscious business scale. Because if they're able to make profits, and this is what I call $1 billion purpose. Yes, I want them to make a lot of profits because I want them to be places where people can work and feel that they belong to something greater. I want them to be self-sustaining, to not rely on external funds or any external circumstances or help. That if, this help, and we've seen it, in the US, when this help shut down, then if your business is not sustainable and self-sustaining, that you will die, right? And I want them to be bold about willing to have this profit because money in the hands of good people is good for the world. And I've worked with so many founders who are conscious and purpose driven. And this relationship to money is something that I'm like, why? Why are you asking yourself so many questions? Because the others are not asking themselves all these questions. Your product is amazing. Your service is amazing. Everything that you've built is amazing. Your team is amazing. Why are you still having this blog about pricing at a fair price? Why? And yeah, I want to help them build that. And parenthood is like also when you see your kids, they are teaching you a lot of things. My little one last time, I was sitting with my husband, and she came and she said, "Why are you all like staring at your screens? Like you're working with your screens, and then you're looking at television again, the screen. Why aren't you just doing something else?" And she's right. She's totally right. She's my
kids
teacher.
are so smart. Their kids are so smart, you know? I mean, I've got 4 kids, so I don't know about you, but I learned so many life lessons just from having kids. Maybe it's the same for you guys that are listening in, by the way. I could probably spend a whole podcast episode sharing some of the lessons about parenthood and running a business, but I won't go into too deep because we're coming to the end of our episode, and that's for another episode. So, but listen, this has been a fascinating conversation, Leila, right? We've had a lot of fun. We've covered a lot of groundwork. Any final thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
Great stuff. Final feeling.
Just to change the mindset from thinking to feeling. I mean, I feel good, right? Talking about those subjects feels good. And it feels good to have a voice out there that is different from sell, that is different from hustle.
Yes.
I'm really happy to have this kind of discussion, and to have this kind of discussion also that speaks to founders that are also parents and that are looking at some successful entrepreneurs and saying, okay, so he wakes up at 5 a.m. and then he does his sport and then he works from 6 a.m. to 10. I would never be able to do that. And if this means scaling means that, then I don't want it. I'm really happy that we are having some conversations to say that you can do it differently. You can do it your way. And you can also enjoy your life and spend time with your kids along the way while you're scaling your business.
Love that. Love that. You know, it's really interesting. It's beautiful of what Leila just said, by the way. And it's certainly very true for me, and certainly for some of the clients that I work with, is that scaling doesn't necessarily have to be so difficult. It doesn't require for you to work every hour under the sun. It doesn't mean to go faster. It doesn't mean to do more. Okay. Actually, what I have found from experience is that scaling is about doing less. Less is more. So, you know, for you guys that are listening in thinking, okay, well, what's the golden nugget? That's the golden nugget, right? I can tell you now from experience is that make your life easy, which means you do more. Trust me, it really does work. Anyway, Leila, just want to say thank you so much for being on today's show. It's been a lot of fun, and yeah, we've covered a lot of groundwork, and what we'll do is make sure that you check out Leila's book, which we'll put in the show description notes, of course, and her social media links as well. So feel free to reach out to her if you have any further questions around our conversations. And hope you've enjoyed today's episode, wherever you are listening. And I see this a lot on the end of and summarizing our podcast episodes. If this is the very first time that you have listened to this particular podcast and you've enjoyed it or not enjoyed it, please go over to Apple or on Spotify, leave a 1 or a 5-star review and some feedback. Because guys, listen, if we want to make more impact, if we want to get the message out, we need you guys on board, and it'd be great to hear from you as a listener. So listen, from me and Leila, thanks so much, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Take care, and speak to you soon. Cheers now. Bye-bye.